Welcome to a new episode of BizTechTalk. Today we have a brand new guest, Naim, a software engineer at a large tech company in Britain, right, in England, which is Bark. And he is going to tell us about his experience in working at a large tech company and his experience in startup founding.
Yes.
Yeah, today we're going to explore the differences between like working at a company and pursuing your own business idea. All right. Okay, Naim, we can start, I guess, with the very beginning. I mean, why software engineering? Where did you start? And your journey until today, let's say.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, I've been doing this for the last 7 years, more or so. Like you can say, closer to a decade now. And I've started in startups. I was building an app by myself for the place that I was working. And that back in the time that I was working for a restaurant. So while I was working at this restaurant, I saw that every new joiner that joined the restaurant needs to go through some sort of training. So my initial idea was to create.
When they were joining to work, or
yes. So like when let's say I was working for the restaurant as a waiter, right? And another waiter joins, they need to go through some specific training about the food, about the service and everything. So I was just interested in the software engineering back in the day. I was just taking these courses in Free Code Academy and Udemy as well. So that's how I started. And it was just a hobby at the beginning, and I thought I can create a more structured data or more structured place for all this training, right? And I started building this app, and I just happened to share that on LinkedIn, completely accident. I don't even know why I did that, but I just put it on my LinkedIn. Yeah, after I done the application, I put it there, and then I got reached out by a recruiter saying that they have a role that they're recruiting, so if I'm interested or not. But this is 7 years ago, so back in the day the job market wasn't like this right now, so it's kind of tough, but back in the day there was a lot more jobs. So
okay, yes.
Yeah.
Just a second. When you were working at the restaurant, were you in the IT department or were you?
Not at all. No. I was working as a waiter.
Waiter. Oh, yeah. You were working as a waiter and developing your own application from at the side.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And then you just got recruited.
Yep. Pretty much. Yes.
Oh,
I got an opportunity. So I was explaining the agent that, look, I don't have experience. I never worked in a company before. I'm just doing this on my own, on my computer, just learning at the same time. He said, it's okay, don't worry about it, just go there, just show up and take the test, let's see what's going to happen. And it was a junior position, so I went to the place, and it was actually much better than I expected. I thought they're going to ask very tough questions and everything. They pretty much ended up asking the things that I already knew at that time. So they said okay, if you're up to it, you can just start training to us. So I offered them, I couldn't take that risk at that time, to just go out of limbo and just start a new career and everything, because the pay it wasn't that much.
Okay.
And they were thinking of more of an internship position than the junior position. So I offered them maybe during my off days, I can just come and then work for the company. Then they say, okay, after 3 months we can make a decision if we're gonna hire you as a junior developer or not. So that's what happened. And after 3 months I got hired, and then just continued working for the project. It was a very small startup.
So it was a startup.
Yeah, it was a startup. Yeah. That's one of the things that I think I was quite blessed in my career, that started with, I started working with really, really small startup that kind of practically building MVPs, then worked my way up to recently BBC, and then now with Bark. So kind of saw, all these stages for the startups, from being a startup to get to the scale up stage, and then, to the big corporation, how they're running their operations, how they're building the software, building the tech. So yeah.
So about this, your first job at this startup company, you were completely in a different industry, working as a waiter, and you said that you learned the software from courses.
Yes.
From online courses, yeah. And where does this interest to software come from?
Oh, okay. So that actually goes to way back to university. I've studied a completely different area, which it was metallurgical and materials engineering. Kind of, we call it the Elon Musk stack.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was studying that, and I already had an interest. In Turkey, there's this exam that you need to take before you enter the university. Yeah. So it's like university exams you need to take. You need to get some kind of grade in order to go into the field or the university that you want. So you make decisions, but it also comes down to the exam that you're taking, right? And it's nationwide. So I always wanted to study like computer science, but I couldn't make it in Turkey. So,
I see.
So, but I was, into the industry. I was, trying to learn like HTML and CSS, which is the basic stuff that you would, how you start as a self-taught programmer. So then after uni, I decided to work for a year in the industry that I was graduated from, which I did, but I didn't like it at all. So I ended up leaving there and then just came to London. Just like a very quick decision. I just came here and I was trying to, find a job to survive pretty much. So that's how I ended up in the restaurant as well, which ended up working there for 6 months. But after 6 months, everything was okay.
Nice. Well, it's very interesting and fascinating. So you worked in startups that was building an MVP.
Yeah.
Then you said that, was it the same startup that you worked for, like scaling process? It was different.
There were startups that scaled while I was working there. Not all of them at the same time. So I would say I've worked for 6-7 startups, 6-7 companies.
Okay, 6-7 companies. So, but right now you're working, it's not a startup, it's already accomplished, one of the, I guess, very renowned companies in UK, I guess, Bark. I don't know. I've heard about it before.
Honestly, first time I heard about Bark when I had the job interview.
Oh, right.
So
okay. Well, you see, I guess I know Bark because I'm in marketing, and you see, the Bark is a lead generation company.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I know it. So, what is the difference between working in companies that are already established, like corporations, and startups?
Yeah. So, for the big corporations, you need to have one really, really good skill. So, like, you need to focus on one area in your career. So like you're just gonna do one thing, one job, one task. And for the startups already, you kind of like a Swiss knife, you kind of need to do everything because you need to figure out stuff, which in my opinion that teaches you a lot more than working for a big corporation, which I'm really, really happy with my career progression, especially starting with the startups, then going into the bigger companies, then other way around, just working for the big companies, because you kind of see the timeline, how the company is being funded, how the company is creating the product, and how they are making the decision, and what is the things that actually killing the company, killing the product, right? Because many times that small startups are making the pivots quite faster than the big ones. And the big ones is already established, it's already there's some kind of operation going on. They might be doing some experimentations here and there, but it's gonna be the same exact thing. So I was with the BBC working for the weather section of the BBC, and the only thing that we did was to port the old weather website into the new design system, which the look and the feel was pretty much the same, but they needed to better technology, so all was like a migration work at the end.
So it was the only thing that you had to think about. I mean, that was your only task. Migrating
that, and just like creating it with the new design system, like moving away from the old technology, but the functionality and everything is going to be the same. There were quite changes, like small changes, but they were like a product of months of research. So even like with the button, that where the button is gonna be, I remember there was a 2-3 hour discussions about it, and like user testing, how people are feeling about it and everything. Compared to in a startup, you can just completely redo everything.
Do this.
Exactly, you completely change the design and the idea and everything. So
okay. So in startups, I don't know, I guess I have kind of an interest in startups, so that's why I'm going to ask a little more about startups. The startups that you worked at, I mean, did they all survive and grow? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, very good. So they they made the right decisions?
Yes and no. There is no like black and white, or it's more of a gray area than making the right decisions or the wrong decisions. It's kind of subjective. So you can argue that these are the right decisions, or you can argue these are not the right decisions, because someone would have more experience would say they could have done better. Which first company that I worked for, interestingly, they did an exit. So they sold the company to another big corporation. So they got acquired, which, is a good thing, because you get some kind of return on your investment of your time and everything. So I would say if the investors wasn't happy with it, there wouldn't be a acquisition in that sense. But otherwise, that all the other ones that I have worked for, they're doing somewhat good. One of them I know that it was a startup when I joined, then it became a scale up. Now it's, I think in a couple of years, they're planning to do IPO as well. Nice. So that's going to be another win for them as well. Yeah, I'm also, looking forward to it. Still have stock options from that company. So
exciting to see when it's going to come up and how it's going to be evaluated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you get to say that I built that.
Oh, exactly. So in these startups, which one was the most memorable for you, or let's say the one that gave you the most insights, or gave you you learned the most from? Which experience, or when was it? And I guess you also had your own ideas and projects that you pursued and still are pursuing. And which of those startups would you take example of in pursuit of your own business?
I see. Okay, so kind of like a role model, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I would say the second startup, because that was the one that was starting from scratch. So when I joined, there wasn't an MVP.
Oh.
So it was just me and the CTO of the company. They just got funded, and we were I was a junior developer back then, right? And it was quite interesting for me, the level of responsibility that I was getting as a junior, and they were involving me into the ideation phases. So how they're thinking about the product, where they're getting the feedback from, what are their approach, and how do you build the MVP, and how do you test it, put it in front of the customers, and get what kind of feedback. So everything, we had to think about it. We had to build the infrastructure for it. So I would say that was a very, very good example. But also, on the other hand, obviously the one that I started my career was also, made me more aware of how the system, how everything was working. So I think that the most career progression that I get, it was a company called SteelEye, which is a financial regulatory company. That was the one from a startup to became a scale up while I was working there. And I think I got the most experience in that company, because it's more of at the beginning it's more of a concept, but that kind of showed me how do you take a company, how do you take a simple product, launch it into more bigger thing, get into more detail, get into spread your reach a bit more. So how do you scale the product itself? That is going to be, how do you optimize it? So all these very big technical challenges, I've learned it in that company for sure.
If you give us maybe a little more details on those challenges that that startup faced, and how they overcame them, and what made them successful.
So it's a combination of the product and the engineering, and also other aspects of the sales as well. It's more of a moving, there's a lot of moving part. There's a lot of variables in the equation to becoming successful, but
you see, that's what it makes it complicated.
Exactly.
And that's why not everybody succeeds in this.
Exactly. Yeah. But to specifically talk about the technical part, and I would say that you're moving from that doing things just the sake of speed, and just just the sake of building it, to thinking how we can make it more how can we save the cost, how we can make it faster for the user, how we can make it better experience for the user, and how do we support all this infrastructure. So it becomes more of thinking of the best way, that tackling the tech debt, at the same time building something new, at the same time testing ideas as well, more and new ideas, but also to protect and keep the same status quo in terms of the development, and just improving the product for further, because an MVP, and when you have the initial product, you don't have much of depth in it. It's something that, proof of concept.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of like, you just put something together. Some companies even doing that with no code solutions. That there is nothing, no one wrote a single code in their MVP.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
it's just, they use some kind of ready systems.
Yeah. So that's the minimum viable product. Right. So you need to add more features and then making it more viable product instead of having the minimality. Then. So that's the scalability, that's where the scale term is coming from for the startup to scale up.
Right. Nice. Well, what do you think? In those startups, especially the one that is going into IPO, you said, right? Yeah. So they must be doing pretty well. But let's say you worked closely with their founders, I suppose.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
Because when the company grows, it's just a relationship. It kind of becomes more distant, yes, because you don't get to interact with the salespeople anymore. You don't get to interact with the marketing. You just get to interact with other developers.
Of course, yeah.
When it's a smaller
when it's smaller,
everyone is
in the same place.
Someone's making a sale while you're bashing some bug in the corner. So.
All right, I see. What is the best way to move your product to the market? In your opinion, in my opinion,
it's even before you have the product.
Marketing and selling.
Definitely.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest mistakes that I did in the previous ventures that I wanted to start myself on the side.
Okay.
So I approached the problem in the software developer mindset rather than being an entrepreneur, which is building the product first and expect people to come to you, which doesn't work like that. You need to first make people come to you, then you decide what product to build.
Right.
So you might make an assumption, go test that assumption. So see if there's any kind of demand. If there's no demand, it's not worth doing it in that case. But that itself is an entire job. That itself takes a lot of effort, especially finding that product and doing the wording right, because you need to be a really good communicator, in my opinion, to tell other people what your idea is, what it can become, and then how it can grow. So
and convince them
exactly
to use it.
Exactly.
And give money for it.
Exactly. So first you need to do that. You need to be able to do that, and then you can just go out there and start building your MVPs or all the other products that get into technicalities and everything. But first you need to validate it somehow, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess that communication part you said, selling part is definitely must be very, very important part of any business. BlackBerry founders, I watched this movie, I guess it was a movie, how BlackBerry was started and how it died, let's say. How it was moved out of the market. And when initially it was founded by two developers, by two engineers, but they couldn't sell it to anybody. They got successful when a salesman joined them.
Yeah.
He was pushy, he was arrogant, but he could talk. And then that guy sold their product, the product that was built with some kind of parts from something. It looked hideous, but he sold it just going in there, telling and building, drawing them this beautiful picture, and it got huge. It got huge until some point.
I remember that their selling point was how secure is the phone.
Yes.
So it became an icon for business people.
Exactly. And you see that the instant messaging, for example, they started this instant messaging that wasn't.
I think before.
Yeah, that was that. Before you could text somebody, but you had to pay for every text. Remember?
Oh yes.
Yeah, but then they started this instant messaging like WhatsApp. You can text anytime, and there is no cost.
Yeah.
So it's also it was a revelation that BlackBerry brought. Why I mentioned this? the mentioning was that the selling is incredibly important. They had this, that all their ideas were revolutionary. like if the smartphone idea.
But no one understands.
Yeah, but nobody would even know about it if the other guy, that salesman, would never join them. Would never join them. So, of course, like selling, I don't know. Of course, well, both of them are quite important, but without selling, nobody's gonna know your product.
Exactly. One cannot exist without that.
Yes, exactly. So now I would like to go into your own startup pursuits. Yeah, you can tell us. What were the ideas? And you already kind of mentioned the one that you made a mistake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell us about the others.
Actually, it's more than one.
Probably.
More than one that I tried to build. So since that I started my career maybe 7 years ago, I always had some kind of side applications that I'm trying to build, right? Side projects that I'm getting involved with. So most of them were just building the product out. That's a good idea. Let me build that and see. And first one I remember, it was a CRM. Mm-hmm. That this was before COVID. I think it was 2018 or 19-ish. It was a CRM that uses machine learning. And the idea was coming
back then.
Yes, everybody says that, before AI it was cool, but it wasn't even called AI. It's just everyone was saying machine learning. That the reason that I came up with that idea is not because that I'm into this industry or I know so much about this industry, because I have a best friend of mine from uni, and he was studying computer science. And he just started doing his academic career in one of the universities in Netherlands in large language models. So back then, when they were there was, I think, the BERT and GPT-1 and GPT-2 was a thing, and Google was kind of leading in that, dominating in that area, which we still didn't know that there was something called reinforcement learning. So you were giving a bunch of pretext, based on that context, AI was able to generate the sentences. So while we were talking, so he was explaining, all this advancements, what's happening in the area and everything. So that gave me the idea back then. I've started doing it. No one understood it, as we discussed, And also there were already other very well established products like HubSpot and Salesforce, which is one of the biggest companies in the world right now. One of the most valuable as well. So there are these solutions already. This market is already oversaturated, and with the thing that I'm trying to build, with first one, no one understands, and second, I didn't know the ins and outs of sales.
Right.
Which to prepare something for salespeople. If I had a co-founder who's in sales that can give me insights, tell me what are the challenges and what are the things that they're looking to solve, instead of me just building the entire CRM, that would be much more valuable, for example.
Yeah. You could have avoided pits,
Yeah. And another one that I would say that was a big mistake of mine, when the ChatGPT thingy happened, that released, right? And I was looking to build something around that, around the API, like anyone else.
Of course.
And yeah, of course, exactly.
I know some developers.
Yeah.
And when the ChatGPT was out, and everybody was looking for an idea to build something by using these APIs, and you see, market overflowed. I wouldn't say overflowed, but there were so many new applications that came out with AI features, let's say. With those AI features. Some of them, of course, got very popular, and some of them didn't. But it's just, I guess it is a common sense, to be honest, for developers to try and stay with the trend, and
yes, so yes and no again, because it's a hype, another hype, it's the other lesson that I learned, don't write the hype at all. Unless you have a really clear goal, that really clear unfair advantage above everyone else. So let's say you're a doctor with a lot of experience, and if you can identify a problem that no one knows about it, and then you can apply to this API on top of that, then fine, go do that. Because it's a new advancement, new thing. And if you're like me, software developer, we're looking to ride the next wave of hype, then it's not a viable solution. And obviously, as I did, it's not going to work. and it's just gonna,
Oh, I see.
it's
So
gonna
this,
fail. Yeah.
I understand. So this API or new feature
Yeah.
that is out has to just complement your original idea. It has to reinforce your idea.
In my opinion, yes.
Okay,
It should be it should be seen as a tool rather than a goal to build something.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, of course.
Because I mean, at the beginning it was fine and nice, but after a while everyone is starting to talk about AI, even my parents. So then it became, kind of boring and just like you don't want to hear that word again. It just becomes a buzzword, Kind of went through a couple of ideas, and at the end, like, I decided to build this marketing content generator type of thing page. So that was, I would say, it's one of the side hustles that I did, and it taught me the most because because that was for the first time I decided to, that was the time that I left my job, and I decided to focus on it full time rather than being a side hustle. I just wanted to try it for a couple of months to see where is it gonna go, and just like give my 100%. And I ended up speaking to a lot of people where we met in that event, like the Vasily. That's how I met him. That's how I created this environment, like the network around me. That's how I got involved with a lot of people and just get opinions and advices from salespeople, marketing people. Everyone was giving advice, and I just I took that, and then I realized that yes, I'm approaching to this for a while in the perspective of a software developer, but I should be approaching from a different perspective.
Exactly.
After getting all these insights, then I stopped building the product and I started going out and speaking to the people who might be buying it, which I managed to get a couple of clients as well. They tried, but quickly I understood that there's no future in that for me to do that, because I don't have this background. Again, I don't have this unfair advantage over everyone else.
Okay.
So it's not.
You don't have the total know-how or the knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. In order for me to go on to that project, I didn't thought like I have enough experience and enough like insights from the industry itself. So I just stopped the project altogether.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But you've learned a lot from that journey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
That's what I learned. So like you need to identify that unfair advantage, create that story, and then just explain to other people and see if you should be building it or not.
Okay. Nice. So before building it, start with that first.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other ideas that you are looking for right now? Are you thinking about starting something, or have you already started, or do you have a plan to start?
So one thing that I have started, that this was an idea that I was thinking of back in COVID times when everyone was in lockdown. So this is one thing that I've been doing with my friends for years now, and we challenge each other to do something. It could be just as simple as drawing something every day, and then we just create this WhatsApp groups, right?
Very supporting.
Yeah. So kind of with a group you do something, and then you just keep each other accountable.
Exactly.
So that was the thing that we were doing. Yes. So I've been doing this for a while, and during COVID times I thought I can make this into an app, which then I ended up not exactly. Yeah. So I ended up putting that on the shelf. I don't know what happened back then. I just don't remember. And after this marketing thing, it failed. So I was looking through my old projects, and I saw that, and I was like, okay, this is a good idea, because I'm still doing this with my friends.
Oh yeah, of course.
I recently started learning Mandarin, right? And just there's a friend of mine who's doing the same. So we're sending each other screenshot of what we did on the Udemy, and my notes and everything from WhatsApp every day. So it's the checking in with each other.
So you said you started learning Mandarin?
Yes.
Nice.
Should
Oh, good. Mandarin. And it's just for the sake of learning Mandarin?
Just the sake of learning Mandarin.
Oh, nice. Very interesting.
I was bored.
I see. Okay. Do you know this guy? He has this blog, Nas Daily. He's huge, actually. He has millions of followers. He's from Palestine himself. You don't know him. Okay, you should check him out, because
he speaks Mandarin.
He just launched a challenge app.
Oh, nice. Okay.
This week.
Okay.
Yeah, and do you see why I'm telling you this? Is probably your idea is quite viable if there is somebody else doing it.
Yeah.
And he already launched it, and it's definitely the same as you're saying. You can set a challenge, for example, I'm going to work out 20 days in a month.
Yeah.
And other people can join in.
Yeah.
And you can track and see, and of course communicate with those people who joined the challenge.
Yeah.
Hey, it's quite neat.
Yeah, pretty much. There are things
Okay.
that I started with the beta recently, which had the same features, but there are a couple of things that didn't work on there. So, for example, allowing everyone to join the challenge.
Okay.
It's not as good thing as you might think, because some people are like, there were 70 something people joined for the beta.
All right.
Right. And only 10 or 11 people actually posted and shared something. And the reason for that, they're going in, there are daily active users. It's more than people who are posting, but they might be camera shy. They might not be comfortable of sharing their progress, their face, and you would see like some of them just like sharing screenshots of the applications, that they are using, like they take a picture of their like watch, or the other apps that they were using to see the calorie burn or something like that. So yeah, I mean, they're checking in, yes, but not in a sense that I would expect. So that kind of brought to my attention. So there might be like, yes, public ones that people, if they want to join, but I think the most viable part is going to be keeping it in closed groups.
Okay.
To do with your friends.
Right. I mean, with your friends that you are not ashamed of,
Yeah.
that you are comfortable with sharing.
Yeah.
And if you just couldn't go through with your challenge, then you would feel okay with this, let's say.
Exactly, yeah.
I see.
And that came from the user feedback. So that's the thing that I was talking at the beginning. So like, you need to first listen to the people, what they want. I don't know if you saw this survey that I was doing on LinkedIn. So I've created this survey and just like asking various people to find out what's the ideal user for me, based on how they're building habit, what they're doing with these challenges, to get that insights from the people. So before I even started building like a proper features or like designing the app, I just created something simple and just try to collect feedback, which is still, I'm in that stage. Okay. I'm not rushing with anything. Right. There might be a lot of products at the market right now that could be like, you can just argue that, say, the WhatsApp you can use WhatsApp groups, which I was using. Yeah. For me, that's an MVP at the beginning. Okay. But if I can make it as easy as possible, and then just get rid of all the questions that the users might have on every need that they might have that other apps that doesn't give them, or other people that cannot give them, which also brings my unfair advantage on the table, which is scaling up to these apps and then making it into like a social platform, which is one of the hardest thing in software development to build. Exactly. Yeah. So that's because like my unfair advantage in this stage is to know how to build that, how to create from the MVP, as we spoke at the beginning. I've started from the smallest company to the bigger operation, how they're running it, what they're caring about, and how they are deploying to millions of users. So to know how to build that infrastructure is going to be the unfair advantage that I was leveraging in this one.
Yeah, great. The idea is great, and this time I'm guessing you are on the right track. You are hopefully, yeah, because you started from the steps. You are taking the steps that needs to be taken before actually building the product. And you are building the interest, and you're getting like real feedback of people, of potential users, which is actually...
And one important thing is to get that feedback from strangers, not friends and family.
Yes, I also read about this, that whenever, it doesn't have to be a startup, it doesn't have to be a tech product, in any business idea, if you convince a stranger to give money for the product or service that you're providing, it means that it's viable. Not your friends, not your family, not your close or any acquaintance, but a person who doesn't really know you, but he's willing to give you money. Then that's the viable product.
After that, it just becomes like spending money and acquiring customers. So like this ratio that I learned recently is, when you, let's say, as you said, when you convince some stranger to pay for your product, and then you can create lifetime value for that person. So like how much money that they're going to spend in a lifetime in your platform or for your product.
Yeah.
So once you calculated that, and then you need to calculate another number, which is how much money that you're spending to get acquire that person.
Yeah.
If that number is around like 1:7, 1:5 ratio, that's a very good business. So like you're basically spending, let's say, 10 pounds to buy 100 pounds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good formula. Yeah.
That's actually a formula that I heard from investors. They were the ones who told me that. This is from all these events. They were telling me that this is the one metric that we're looking at.
Oh, okay. So if that metric is positive, then we're investing.
Exactly. That means that you just need to spend money to bring more money. That's it.
Right. Of course.
As simple as that.
Yeah, you want to get funding, give them that value.
Yeah.
I mean, give them that metric, and let's say, you're not going to have problems with raising.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, Naim, thank you very much. It was very informative, especially, I guess, for those who are thinking of building their startup. This episode could help them, I guess, avoid some mistakes that most of the people make. I read that over 40% of all the startups fail because their idea was not viable. It's just because their idea didn't solve any problem. It's just thought
it's not the problem that they were thinking.
Yeah, it's just that, okay, they have this amazing idea, they build it, and it doesn't work. And the only reason is that, you see, nobody needs it. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for joining. Thank you for your time, and I hope we will have more episodes with you. And thank you, listeners, for your time too. I hope it was useful, and see you in our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.